Hi, everyone. It's Dina with the Realize Foundation, and today I'm here with Amy, who is one of our authors in Volume 3. Welcome, Amy. So excited to be here. um, let's just dive in and talk about what is your chapter about?
Yes, I'm so excited to be part of this project because this theme is something that is kind of misunderstood or not really talked about enough. And honestly, I haven't shared my story with a ton of people, so this chapter for me is really writing about my rock bottom point of my life, that floor of despair that left me ready to follow through with all the dark suicidal thoughts that had been swirling in my head. And in that, I talk about, what happened at the crucial moment where I was ready to end it all. Like I had this cry of desperation to determine, is God really real and does he love me? And then the story kind of unfolds from there, like what that path forward, looks like. Because that's the hard part. Walking away from the floor of despair is really the hard part.
Yeah, it is. Yes, and we've talked, and you know that I've been there, and it is hard. And
Mm.
it's even hard to explain it to someone where I don't know that they ever fully understand, um, if they haven't been in that place, but there are definitely too many people in our world that have been in that place, and that is why we're here, and that is why sharing our stories are so important, so
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we get just so weighted down, by the burdens and the baggage of life. And we get tired of carrying it, which is normal. I think everyone gets tired of carrying stuff, the heavy stuff of life, But
Mhm.
when you figure out that there's a path of life where you don't have to carry it, that with Jesus, like we can lay it all at his feet, and he does all the heavy lifting, and we get to kind of surrender to that. And I think that we can know that in theory, but the actually walking it out or believing it from our heart, is what we have to like open up that connection, you know, to learn how to do that. Because I mean, we all know lots of things and we all know the right thing to do, but if we don't believe it in our heart,
Mhm.
then we don't act on it,
Mhm.
the knowledge is just pointless. Like I can know that I have purpose and value for my life, but if I don't believe it, then I don't act on it, you know.
That's a really good point.
Hmm.
um, I think I wanna ask you, you said you haven't shared it with many people in your life, but my question would be, after, I mean, people can read your story, but after this incident that happened for you, did you talk about it immediately to anybody, or was it like, I'm just gonna go on with my life and ignore that happened, or how did you feel then?
Great question, because I didn't talk about it. Let me think. I'm almost 50 and it happened in my 20s. So for probably almost 20 years, it was that like deep, dark secret that I was ashamed to talk about it. I was ashamed that I had somehow come to the place of thinking that my life had no value, because I believed it at the time that I had no value or worth in the earth, like that my son would be better off without me as a mom, you know. Like the strength of that belief was so intense at that time of my life. And as I walked out of it, I was ashamed that I got to that place. Our minds are bizarre sometimes, like the way that we can go down these rabbit trails of thought, and they're just little thoughts that are planted in our mind that then we kind of ruminate and we build on and we make them into these big things that aren't even real, and I think I was so ashamed of that I didn't talk about it. And so I was probably 45 before I really ever told anyone that had been my story. And it was funny because I was invited to speak at a women's like lunch at Christmas time. It's supposed to be this holiday event, which should be all like, yay, we're celebrating the birth of Jesus. And here I felt like I was supposed to share that I had been suicidal and, had had this really dark moment in my life. And the amazing thing is, at the end of that, this woman came up and she just opened up that she had tried to commit suicide 4 times in her life. And she hadn't died all 4 times. Like someone had intervened and got her to a hospital. Um, and I just think, wow, like we never know the power of our story, to help someone else have a connection, because she and I got to connect. And in that connection, I got to hear her, and be with her in those hard emotions, and she got to know she's not alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was for me a life changing moment of people don't know that they're not alone because you feel so alone, you know.
Yes,
Mhm.
you do, and I think you're right. Our mind is very powerful in many ways, and it can be negative and positive because when you're, and probably people listening to this know my story, but I didn't talk about my attempt for 23 years.
Mhm.
And there were very few people in my life knew that something happened, but they didn't really know the whole story. And, um, if my significant other at the time had not come home when he did and found me, I probably would not be sitting here.
Mhm.
Um, but I also believe that I went through that for a reason. And it's the whole reason that we're doing what we're doing with Scars to Stars and the Realize Foundation is because what broke my silence after 23 years was losing a friend I had known for 20 years to suicide
Mm. Mhm.
and wondering, like, would my story have helped him? Could I have helped him? And that is what drives me every day
Mhm.
to continue doing this. And that part always makes me emotional when I talk about it.
Mhm.
But it is true. It's that our mind tells us we're not enough, we're not worthy, we don't matter. It tells us that we, you know, should be ashamed or guilty or, whatever it is. And it keeps us silent, which doesn't allow us to process what happened and move forward from it.
Yeah.
And I think that is the one thing that we can do in our community is help people have these hard conversations when maybe they don't have someone in their everyday life that can be that person for them. And so, yeah.
Yeah. In my story, I write about the one woman, that I totally believe she was divinely appointed by God to be put into my life because she's nothing like me, personality wise, significantly older than me, actually, at the time.
Mm,
Um, and she was the perfect person to let me be angry, because I was angry. I had so much emotions that would come boiling out of me at totally the wrong time. I would rant and rave, and it was not easy, I'm sure, to have me in this group that I had joined as I came out of, my I don't want to give too much away from my story, but I end up going to this Bible study.
mhm,
And this woman was the leader of that. But one of the things that I think is so powerful that I always get teary-eyed too when I think about her is she so modeled the love of Jesus, that's what drew me to keep going, because she loved me and she had so much mercy and grace and tenderness for this broken woman who was consumed with bitterness and guilt and shame and anger and condemnation and all the thoughts about, like, what is my purpose? I have no point in being here and the world's better off without me. I was a raging mess. Like, wow. I mean, she was that one person. And I think that's what I find the beauty in sharing these stories, and like this book, it's the third volume, but all these people that have written their story, what it's doing is inspiring. She inspired me that somehow she could be this person that embodied love and grace and patience. And I was like, how is that even humanly possible? Because I didn't know anyone in my life, that was modeling that. And she just modeled it in a way that made me want that. And I think that's the power of God's love. When we really see it, when we really come face to face with his love, everything in us wants to have that. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Um, it's funny because I do a lot of business videos, and then I switch gears and do these videos, and it's like I'm crying, and then I'm like all business like, and it's like there's two sides of Dina, I guess, but yeah, it is always emotional, even when we have our calls every week for with all the people who are writing for each project. We have like 12 weeks where we are on a call every week, and not everybody's there every week, but it's like we have some really deep conversations about what we're writing about, or just life in general, or our stories. And so it's it's bonding and healing. I think I've seen so many people over the three projects really bond, or um, grow, like from when I met them until when we launched the book. Like I can really see a difference in people, and it makes me know that something we're doing is right and helping people, and that's what matters. So I guess, since we're talking about that now, will you talk a little bit about why you got involved, and what experience you've had writing your story, and being part of this project and meeting some of the other authors?
Yeah, well, we met, in a business context, and just talking about, I forget what we were talking about at the time, but I kind of talked about, oh, I have a suicide story. And you were like, you should be an author. What?
That's how it happens.
And so it happened organically, which is the best, really. Because I think these, I call it the life and adventure with Jesus. Like we can never make things happen that are as powerful as if we just surrender to his orchestrating of our life. And so, like, I think of all the steps it took for me to even meet you. Like, we don't live in the same state, we just met through a business thing. And we're both, learning to grow a business. And I think, wow, that's so awesome, because I could never figure out how to meet Dina Mitchell, and then he just orchestrates it to give us this encounter where we have this mutual story, that we get to share, and a mutual desire to see people set free from, the pain. And I think that's like what inspires me the most in sharing is I can honestly say now, like, you don't have to live with pain. You don't have to live with that emotional pain. There is a way to take care of it. And so that, like, I don't want to say it goes away, because the memory of an event may never go away, but like the painful connection to it can be healed, by Jesus. And I think I'm so passionate for people to know that, because I've had women in my life over the years that just get stuck in a cycle of pain, and I've been there. I was stuck in a cycle of pain and there's no help for it. And so I think getting involved with the Realize Foundation and doing this process of writing to inspire and encourage is something like I feel like it's a passion of mine. Like, yes, I hear about what you're doing. I'm like, yes, people need you. Go, Dina. Like, get everyone on board. Tell the world. Because it's a silent thing,
Mm.
especially in the church circles. I think people don't talk about it, and they need to be talking about it.
Yeah, and I think it's not just the church circles, it's really everywhere. And it's not something, even the people who have stories like we do or they've lost somebody are not always open about it. And I think even if someone's lost a child or a teenager or even an adult child or sibling, it's really hard for them too to process what happened and why. And they live with a different kind of pain
Mhm.
than those of us who have been through an attempt. And so I think it's very important that all of us have these conversations, because if we were open enough to have the conversations any time that it comes up or when it starts for somebody, we can keep people alive.
Mhm.
We can save lives, because and I believe, and I say this a lot, but I'm like, yes, we need therapy, yes, we need meds, and yes, we need, psych hospitals and all of those things, but I believe that human connection and conversation and community can save people's lives. And I've seen it happen,
Mhm. Mhm.
because if we can talk about this, whether it's to a therapist or whether it's to a community, like if we can talk about it and have people around us that understand and that are supportive, then there is absolutely a way for them to get the help they need and
Yeah.
for them to get the healing that they need. And that's what this is all about. And whether it's picking up a book and reading a story and connecting with somebody with a link to a Facebook group, or whether it's listening to one of our podcasts and then maybe joining our Facebook group and meeting people, or joining our membership that we are about to have, and being in that community with people like us that have had these experiences and are willing to talk about it. It's a whole different world. Because
Mhm.
for me in 2020, after I lost my business and I was really in a place where I was trying to process my own journey, I was in groups online and Zoom rooms with people I didn't know.
Mhm.
And that's where I started talking about it, even though that wasn't what the group was about. It was, Dina, what's your story? And I just started talking about it more and more and more until I got comfortable, and I did go to therapy and I did get help and all of that stuff. But it
Mhm.
just talking to people and have them even listen, even if they didn't say anything. It was healing to me. And
Mhm.
I think that that is the point of what we do, whether it, like I said, whether it's the books or the podcast or it's live conversations or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely. Like I call it the tribe. Everyone needs their tribe. They need to know um, that they have a community of people who will listen and support them while they question, because ultimately we all have doubts and questions. We all have insecurities and confusions. And if we don't allow those things to be expressed, then we're just suppressing all of the emotion that surrounds those. And we end up with all this turmoil, in our head and stinking thinking, right? And what do we do with that? And ultimately, it is up to us. Like we have the autonomy and the power to do something different. We just don't know what we don't know unless we encounter people who have walked the road already and are sharing tips, tools, resources that may align with our own personality or beliefs, and then we're able to move forward.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. It's very important, and I'm excited about book 3, and excited that you're in it, and excited for people to read your story for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thanks for the privilege.
Yeah. So I'm going to end my video the way I end most of my conversations, and that is a thank you for watching or listening, and you matter, you are enough, and you are worthy. So have a wonderful day.